I hear that comparison.
Thank you.
It's a chashash.
What?
Today's churches are really just a chashash. There's no avodah zarah going on in most churches. So it's a chashash. So if two people do it, the same as this mission.
Right. I just wonder what is two. I guess maybe there's something. Maybe it's something about two. Two yidden. I don't know if I get the two shtel exactly, but
It's not such a chashash anymore.
right. Maybe. I hear.
They
Okay,
both
new
can't be
parak.
the owners. For the owner to do work on the field is usher. If it looks like it, then it's also usher. But if two people do it, it doesn't look like the owner anymore. Looks like
Right.
these two people want the rock for something. Uh-oh.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm here. I think I'm good. Okay, ready? New parak. So this parak, and sometimes when you learn these gemaras, you wonder, like, how come I didn't think about this? But basically, this parak is about what's included with a sale. What's the default? Is there a default on what's included with a sale? I mean, the common application is you sell a house, and you sell a house, and you want to keep the refrigerator, and you want to take the refrigerator with you. Can you? Can you not? Can you take the stove? Can you take the washing machine and dryer? And let's say you didn't put it into the contract. Obviously, if you put it into the contract, whatever you put into the contract is the din. But what's the default if you didn't put it into the contract? Right? And you could have different rooms. And back then, clearly, they sold rooms. They sold different types of areas. Right? So, yeah. So that's the shiloh. So the Gemara.
The Gemara is going to give us the baseline. The Gemara
is going to, yeah, the Gemara is going to give like what are the basic halachas back then, meaning what's accepted back then. Now the Rambam says, and the Aruch HaShulchan Paskin like this, he says that all this halacha is really it's all just tali in minig hamakom. So you can't necessarily say anything from these Gemaras, meaning the minig hamakom is the minig hamakom. That takes the day. Meaning whatever legally is meant when you say you're selling a house, does that include the washing machines and dryers or not?
And this was in Bava, correct?
This was in Bava, yes.
Not in Eretz Yisrael, not any right, not today. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So okay. So we'll see as we go through it. We'll see as we go through what the basic dinim are. So Zoktim is Samachalaf Amid Aleph. Yeah. So Hamoicher is Habayis. If a guy sells a house, and the biggest one is mezuzahs. That's the one that comes up to the most practical because people want to take their mezuzahs with them. Now, besides for the Kabbalistic thing that we saw at the end of Bava Kama, but not taking down mezuzahs, was the end of Bava Kama, but Metzia, or both?
Metzia,
I don't know. I think it was Bava Metzia, right? Bava Metzia.
Yeah.
So besides for the issue of whether you're allowed to take down a mezuzah, the question is when you sell a house, and are mezuzahs included in the sale or not? Meaning legally, they're not going to discuss. There's going to be no law about mezuzahs, not mezuzahs, right? But it's knocked into the house, and the question is that considered part of the house or not? Okay, I don't know if we'll ever get to the bottom of that or not, or not. But then the question is, can he keep the mezuzahs and just pay for them, et cetera, et cetera? How much to pay for them? Okay, but anyway, Zok the Mishnah. The guy sells a house.
It'd be a good question in American law because I think anything that's attached to the house is legally included. But if not necessarily is mezuzah attached or not, because
that's higufa.
Right.
Yeah. American law counts as an oven attached to the house or not?
I think so. Yeah, I think if you don't say, I would assume that it's anything that's like metaltal that you could pick up and put in your car is not included. I would presume.
I'm saying, so is an oven metaltalin or metaltalin mechuber
No,
l'karka?
I think it's and maybe Leo would know better.
Yago,
But
if you're a
I think it's
nursing home
considered
guy,
not.
it's called movable,
Yeah.
and you can throw wheels on a lot of kitchen equipment.
Oh yeah. You know, when you get into the Tevilas Kalim heter that it's plugged into the wall, so it's mechuber l'karka, and therefore you don't need a toilet, right?
They have huge
Parrots,
ovens that are on
parrots,
wheels.
Really?
50 years ago, when Mr. Carmel moved in Far Rockaway from
Onega.
Canega, he moved down to the other corner. He moved down. They had this moving company, 8 or 10 guys with rollers, and they just moved everything. These thousands of pounds of ovens and stuff. They just put rollers on and they just rolled it around. It was very tremendous to watch. It was like unbelievable. They just moved everything.
It's anything that's a fixture. Anything
I
that's
want
attached
so
to the house.
yes, that's the din fixture.
A fixture, yeah. The
Fixture.
air conditioner is a fixture.
Is it? And
If
if
it's
an air
oven on
conditioner
wheels,
is
it's the Shiloh.
a window unit is a fixture?
No. If it's like in the wall.
I mean a wall unit.
A wall, yeah. But if it's on the windowsill,
It's considered interesting. Okay,
yeah,
so
and then there's
that's
gray
basically
areas, obviously.
yeah. So then, the muscle for our Mishnah would be if you sold a house and you have a shed in the back, right? So now that shed, is that included in the sale or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think a shed in American law would be included in the sale.
Yes, that's so.
I mean, it depends on the kind of shed. Again, it's like it's also
general,
like if you take it away.
The general is anything you don't need tools for, you can take. If you need a tool, then you can't take it.
That's why when we had a flood over here, my shed is drilled into my deck, so they covered the contents. They didn't want it to float away, so I drilled it in.
Oh, because they consider part of the house. Interesting.
Yep.
That's a good idea. That's a Yiddish cup. Yeah. Okay, good. So let's see. The sugi goes. A guy sells a house. Loy mocher yitzia. He did not sell the yitzia. We'll see in the Gemara exactly what yitzia is, but it's sort of like a closet, but an additional closet to the house. That's even if the closet is not a separate entity, right? That's even if the closet is attached to the house, meaning it's let's call it a walk-in closet, as opposed to having to go outside, right? Even that is not included in the sale, right? That the loyas a cheder shelifnim himenu, and not the cheder that's inside of the house. So what does that mean? Meaning it's like the Rashbam says, you can go in and out of you can access the house from it, but it's not considered part of the house. Since it's not considered part of the house, the default is that it's not considered in the sale. So I don't know exactly how this would work, because you're basically selling the guy the house, but the closet you're keeping. So how are you accessing that closet? So a guy would have to give you right away, I think. But we'll have to see exactly how this goes down. But anyway, so
sounds like a garage, an attached garage, which opens into a mudroom, which opens into the house. But technically, the seller can keep the garage and the mudroom. That's his. The buyer has the rest of the house.
Right.
You can't do a virtual sale. Virtual sale.
Well, that's part of the sugya. That's right. Anyways, yeah. So those are the first. So again, it doesn't include the yitzia, and it doesn't include the room that's inside of the house, whatever that. I mean, like the storage for loyas hagag, and it doesn't include the roof. If the roof has a fence around it 10 tefachim high, that means that the roof is being used, and since it's being used, so therefore it's considered it's not considered as part of the house. Meaning, and he should have, if he was planned on selling the roof, then he should have announced that he's selling. He should have written in the contract that he's selling the roof. If Yuda and Yesh Tzuras Pesach, it doesn't need to have a fence. As long as it has a Tzuras Pesach. Now, Tzuras Pesach normally means, this is up Rachamim Zali, means a lechi and a wire. That's not what it means here. It means that if there's a door opening onto the roof, then that means that the roof is being used. Because otherwise, why would you have a door? So even if the fence around the roof is not 10 tfachim, and it's not considered sold. Right? Okay, so the closet and the storage closet is not included.
Isn't it a chiyuv on the seller before he even sold it to have a makkah?
Not if there's no access to the roof. If there's no access to the roof, then no. You don't need it. If you don't have a door opening to the roof, then you don't need a makkah. So now, why this first guy doesn't have, then this mean according to Rabbi Yehuda's sheet, why he doesn't have a makkah, I don't know. All right. Okay, so let's see. So my yitziyah, what is a yitziyah? Hachar Targimu, here in Bavel, right? Zev was asking where we're talking about. It says here in Bavel, his Targimu is after. They said that it's talking about some sort of after, which is a room that's connected to a house. Rabbi Yosef Amar Bitka Chalila. The article touches this as a veranda. It's a veranda. It's a veranda. Which is what? What is a veranda? Is that like a
right? What's a veranda?
Is a gazebo? I understand it's like a gazebo. Something like that.
Kind of. A gazebo is usually not attached
it's
to the
close
house.
to the house and it has windows. That's something like that. Porch, maybe.
A veranda is attached to the house. Gazebo
Whatever it is. So we have two
like
shots.
a Florida room. You know, a Florida room is they took a porch, they closed it in, they made it. You know, they made it just. It's
sort
not
of like what I'm on right now. What I'm on right now.
Yeah, I thought all the bungalows like that. Okay.
This porch that I'm on right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not included. Okay, so there's two pshatim. Either it's some sort of closet or some sort of porch. So Lamandamer after Leimas Davna, so if the Mandamer that says that the storage closet's not included, Kosher came Bidka Khalila Leimas Davna. So for sure the Bidka Khalila is not sold. The Mandamer Bidka Khalila, but the Mandamer that says that this room sort of on the outside of the house, Afsa is Davna, but the Afsa is sold. Right, because that's much more part of the house. Tani Rabbi Yosef. So Rabbi Yosef learned Shalish Shemus Yeshloi. It has three different names, meaning this storage room that's attached to the house has three different names: Yitzia, Seila, and Ta. Yitzia Divsiv HaYitzia Tachtoina Chamesh Ba'ama Rechava. I'm sorry. It's the lower part. These are parts of the Beis HaMikdash, and he made 3 floors. Shlomo Melech made 3 floors, and each one was subsequently wider than the next, so it needed beams. So he called those rooms were called Yitzias. Seila, Dichsiv, Fatzlois, Seila El Seila, Shalish Ushloishim, Pamim. That's talking about Yecheskel is talking about the Bayis Shlishi. So he's also talking about the extra rooms. Ta Dichsiv. There was one long ta and one short one, and there was 5 amas. All right. All we learn it out from here. The kaisel of the heichel, the wall of the heichel was 6 amas thick. And the room behind the heichel was also 6 amas, and kaisel ata chamesh. And then the back wall of the ta was 5, right? The Taisus right off the bat asks the kasha, the third Taisus down, says you bring, so you said that there's 3 names: Seila, Yitzia, Seila, and Ta, and you bring psukim from Nach, and then he say Iba Yezema, it's a Mishnah, right? So Taisus says. Yeah, you hear the Kashem say, well, you're bringing psukim, and then V'yiba is saying it's a Mishnah. You have a raya from psukim, that what they're called, right? So there, the Re gives the teretz that there was only makbid on the lashon. All right. There in Kedushin, they want to ask something like that. So it says the problem was va'oid. Here it doesn't say va'oid. Right? Meaning it just say by saying that you don't have to learn it from a pasuk. You can learn it out from a brisa. Right? Yeah. Okay. So that's fine. That's the source for that. Amar Marzutra. So Marzutra says v'hu dahavi arba amas. The room has to be arba amas. Right? Meaning there's no, if this that we're saying that this storage room is not sold with the house, has to be at least 4 amas. If it's smaller than 4 amas, it's not considered a separate entity, and therefore it's definitely included in the house. Right? Now where does this come up? It comes up by a mezuzah. Does a walk-in closet, or these closets need a mezuzah? Now I kid you not, today I decided after I was packing up, I was listening to Rabbi Rosner. He gives a very nice stuff, Yomi, and he starts talking about mezuzah. I look at my phone with a picture of a room. Is it 4 amas or not? Do I need a mezuzah? Mamish punkt. I don't know if I would have. Did I freeze? I don't know if I would have chopped the whole shiloh, but punkt mamish when we're doing this, that somebody, it wasn't even, meaning this whole shiloh, that's why I'm bringing it up, is the dalet amas including the shelves and the hanging space or not? Meaning when he says here dalet amas, so you have a storage closet. Mistama, it has shelves, right? And Mistama, it has place to put things. Is that included in the dalet amas or not included? Right? So basically the way the poskim understand it is that if it's built into the wall, which gets back to what we were discussing before, if it's built into the wall and you can't remove it, so then it doesn't count towards the dalet amas. But if it's like a dresser in there, a movable dresser, a movable shelves, then that does count as the dalet amas. Right? That's a basic understanding. Anyways, so again, he's saying that if the room is less than dalet amas, it's considered part of the house. Fine. So according to you, who says that if it's up until 4 amas, it's included as part of the house. So when it says that, we said by a bar that somebody, if you're selling a house, a bar, if you have a guy digs a hole next to the house, or a dus is another type of hole, right? And this is actually talking about like I don't know if it's like a sump pump, whatever it is. It's in the bottom of the in the basement of the house. It's in the basement of the house, right? So that's not included in the sale. So apapi shekosvo, even though shekosvo loy umkavaroma, that even though he wrote in the shtar that he's selling the entire, how deep the house is, and he's selling how high the house is, which we're going to see weiter in the Gemara what that is. Hachanami, you have arba amas in Eloi lois, and according to you, if you say that the bar is 4 amas, then it's not excluded. Eloi loy, but if not, then it's not. So meaning, if you're saying that the room attached to the house has to be smaller than dalet amas, dalet amas, so then you're gonna have to say the same thing about a bar. But a bar is never bigger than dalet amas, right? So how are you gonna fit it in with the Mishnah later on in the parak? Again, the Mishnah says that a pit, a bar, a dus is not included in the sale, even if the guy writes as to the depths of the house, the heights of the house. So then you have to say that it's not included because it has at least dalet amas. What bar ever has dalet amas? So when answers hachi hashta, this is what we're saying. Hasam ha tashmishta l'chud v'ha tashmishta l'chud. There, each one has its own. What's the word? Each one has its own
use.
function. Function. The function would be, yeah, use.
Yeah,
Its own
use, function.
Use. Very good. Yeah. Each one has its own function, meaning you have a house, and then you have a pit on the bottom of the house that's either to put water, sewage, plumbing, whatever.
I thought it meant like a well. When you dig a well for a house.
Right.
That's
yeah.
It's two different dinim. What? It's two different dinim.
Right. One is you have the house, and one is you have the well. Right. But going back to what we started off the daf with, you're telling me that nowadays you sell a house, you tell the guy, by the way, I'm keeping the well. That's not going to fly.
No, that's none of this today is because that's why I said in Bubble this was accepted. That's why I started the whole thing.
Yeah, they must have been one big happy family over there.
No, it could be today.
Right.
There was money. There was not so much money, right? In Eretz Yisrael, right? You buy a building, you buy an apartment in a building. Does it come with the Dud Shemesh? Could you walk away with the Dud Shemesh on the top, or can't you? You know, there's different minhagim based on what parts of the world and what's accepted or not. A refrigerator in Eretz Yisrael is not accepted. An oven and refrigerator you can walk out with. In America, it's not a soma kubal, right? It all depends. Correct. So that's why when we started the Gemara, I said in Bavel, this was all. Today, this wouldn't apply. You can't say I'm keeping the well, right? I'm saying
my daughter's apartment in Eretz Yisrael, they took the door handle off.
Really?
They take.
This mission is all talking about where it's mistama. Nobody stipulated him in his daughter's apartment.
Right,
mistama when they wrote the lease. They said in the lease, we're taking the door handle. So okay, fine. Because at the nothing you can do about that.
A fancy door handle, like a custom made, door handle or something.
No, I think they got into a fight or something when they were leaving, so they took everything that wasn't.
That's great.
Yaakov, I didn't speak to him. I speak to Matty Cohn. I'm sure today, him and Rabbi Kana, there's a famous story in the White Shul. I heard it say it like 10 times while there was a fella, Izzy Zwibel, in the White Shul, owned the hotel in the mountains. And he sold the hotel to somebody, and he had his lawyer there, and the other guy had his lawyer there. And they finished signing everything and the transfer of everything, and they went for a walk. And the guy says to this Izzy Zwibel, he says, "Oh, so geschmack, I always wanted to own a lake." He says, "You still don't own a lake. Where does it say the lake came with that hotel? You show me doesn't say that in the papers that we signed." He says, "You still don't own a lake, yeah."
Oh boy. That's a fireable offense for the lawyer.
That's right.
Let's say it sounds like malpractice over there.
Yeah. So I guess that's mamish this Gemara though. That's
mamish. Anytime we had something like this in the Shas, he would say over the story. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So anyway, so that's the thing. So there, each one has its own. The house has its own thing, and the bar has got its own use. So Mamela, it doesn't have to be Dalaramas, be included, excluded. We don't care about that. Right? Here, each one is doing the same thing. You have a house that you live in, and you also have either what we call that the porch, or the porch, or the storage room, whichever it is. So you have a Dalaramas choshev. So if it's Dalaramas, it's considered its own entity. So therefore, it's not included in the sale. Loy choshev, and if not, then it's not its own entity. Good, fine. Then the Mishnah continues, says, and not the room that's inside of that. So the Gemara says, if you're saying that the Yitzia, whatever it is, this extra part of the house that's used for storage is not sold, a cheder, meaning a room, an extra room that's used for storage, do I need to tell you that it's not included? Of course it's not included, right? So, I mean, exactly what the descriptions are of a cheder, I don't know. I'm looking at it like it's like a storage shed, whether it's attached, and it sounds like it's a storage shed attached house like Jesse has, right? Okay, on top of Vase. That says even if the seller, and here's where you really get into the lawyer stuff, where the seller described what he's selling with the mitzri abroy, the outside boundaries. Meaning in the contract, he described the whole property, including this room. Right? So you say, okay, so he described that he's selling this entire property, including this room, so it must be it's included. The Mishnah is telling you, no, it's not included. The reason why he wrote that is just because the guy has no idea which property he's getting at. So Mamela, he just told him, he was using that as sort of points of reference. But he did not mean to sell him this room. I don't know. I have a very hard time understanding this. Right? But okay, so it's almost like it's borderline misleading. Right? He's telling you, you're getting this whole. These are the boundaries of the property, but he did not mean to sell that room. That room was not included because it's not part of the house. So why'd you say the boundaries of the whole house? Because that's the way I'm going to describe to you the area. I mean, it's meaningless. I guess it's the same thing in our sales, right? If you have a deed to a house or a star or whatever it is, right? So I guess it gives you the address, but it doesn't tell you that he's including everything in the address, right?
I mean, it's funny because you usually do have like a survey description that gives you the mitzarim.
Not from the survey, but in the contract and the specifics of the house. There's the mantle and the this and the piano and the chimney, and they have a whole list of stuff they put in there. So and if it's not to be in there, they take it out. But even in a standard contract, they write as much as things in there because everything has to be written in because for this is a reason. You don't want to lose the lake in the deal.
Actually, I think
A
you
survey
just proved the Gemara's point.
Right.
The survey is what he's giving here. This is the survey.
Right. A survey only tells you the dimensions. That's it. Where property stops, it doesn't tell you the dvarim, the things that are inside the property. So
right.
You can sell a piece of property with a survey, and then the house is not included. And the guy, when you close, you take the house. I'm taking my house away with me. It's such a thing. How did the 878 when the 878 was first was first going up? So the properties from Lawrence were what do they call it when the government takes them over? But
eminent domain.
Eminent domain. So they got sold. So where Avram K lives now, that house was actually in Lawrence, and the people had bought that house, and they had the whole house was moved to where he lives now, and there are pictures of it, but
you're giving an answer for the Gemara. You're giving an answer.
Yeah.
You're saying, it doesn't include. It's just the description of the land. That's all.
Right. Gotta make sure you got a good lawyer.
Right. So that's okay. That's good. That makes sense. Yeah, it makes the thing. He just gave the boundaries or whatever it is, but that doesn't mean that he's including everything in there. The Rav Nachman, second line down. Let's say a guy, you have a bira gedola, which normally means like a big palace, but here it means the way the Rashbam says it's basically an apartment building. If you sell a house to your friend in an apartment, a co-op, you're co-oping an apartment. Even though you tell him, I'm selling you the entire building, I don't know, on whatever the address, let's say 833 Central. Yeah. A lot of you didn't live there. So you write 833 Central. Doesn't mean that you're selling him the entire building. All you're giving him is the boundaries, but you're not telling him you're selling him the whole place. right? That's going to be dependent on a second. Hey, Chidami, what would be that case? If you call a house, or in this case, an apartment, and a building, pshita. Like he wrote in the thing, he wrote house, he wrote apartment. He didn't say I'm selling you apartment building. Bira loizavala. He didn't write that he's selling him the building. Ella de la bira nami correlate bias. If it's then, what are you talking about? In a town that they use it interchangeable, they use it interchange. Like they use bira and they'll use bias. So then kulei savalei. Then he did sell him the whole thing, right? I mean, if he was unclear about it, so then it could very well be. I don't know if you know for sure that that's what he sold him, but you sure could hold him to it. If he used a lashon that could be construed as the entire building. So when it says like tzricha, the ruba korole lebayis bias lebira bira. Most people call a house, meaning an apartment, and a bira, a building. Economy the lebira korole bias, and there are some people that call a bira a bias. Mao the same akule zavinle. So you might have thought he sold him the whole thing. Meaning, because he gave the big, most people would not call it a building. So maybe you go with most people, and he sold Kamash Milan. So that the Havilei Lemichtav, but he should have written Veloy Shairis Bezvini Elaine Klum. He should have written in the star, and I'm leaving nothing out of the sale. Veloy Kosam, and he didn't write it. Shmami, no, Shiyuri must be he did leave something over. This is a clause, we'll see on the bottom of the Amid. This is a clause that seemed to have been required to be added to every star, just for clarity's sake. I'm not holding on to anything in this house. And that clause basically clarifies everything. If he didn't write that, so it must be that he did leave something out. And maybe all he was selling is the apartment and not the entire building. If somebody sells a sada to his friend it's the exact same Gemara in a large field, meaning he's selling him a little part of a field in like up here in the country, you have field after field after field, and he tells him, I'm selling you the field over there in whatever street. So even though he said, I'm selling you a field, and he gave the boundaries of like a huge area, he was just giving him the major boundaries, but he only meant to sell him one field. So when I asked, hey, Chidami, what's the case?
Misleading?
Same now. It's the same thing as the previous Gemara. It's used as a point of reference of what area it is. Well, the Gemara really asks sort of what you're asking. Let's say, hey, Chidami, again, say if it's in a neighborhood where if a sada is called a sada and a bika is a bika, pshita. Says Pashat, sada zav, and like he told him, I'm selling you a field. He didn't bika loizam. He didn't say he's selling him a bika, an entire how do you call
Valley.
it? A valley. He didn't say a valley. Yeah, thank you. Valley de la bika nami korole sada. So if you're going to say that a bika is also called a sada, so then kula zavale, then Itaka did sell it to him, like David's saying, right? Come on, answers loy, no, loy, no. The normal thing is you need a case for everybody calls sada and bika. There are some people that call a bika a sada. The same so you might have thought that he meant to sell him the entire thing. Kamash Malon, he should have written Loisha Yaras, Bezvine, Aila, and Kadme Klum. I did not leave anything in this field or this sale over at all. Veloy Kosavle, and he didn't write it. Shmamino, Shire Shire. So we hear from and Mamela, he did not mean to sell him an entire bika of things. Miriam's in the car. The tzricha, and why do we need two cases to say the same din? Bias, because if you say bias, right? We would think so. You have an apartment and you have a building, right? They're two different things. But a bika that is all one thing, meaning a field is a field is a field. Like maybe Taka meant to sell him the whole thing. Meaning you can't. It's hard to mistake selling an apartment for a building, right? But a field, you could say, oh, he meant this. He wrote in the thing, he's selling the whole valley, right? Yes, we know bika, but it would say bika mashum delay limit. It was a bika, so
But the money doesn't have anything to do with this. If the guy's paying a $500, he's not buying a whole apartment building.
Yeah, that's a good question too. I think we're gonna have
to. Not buying 25 acres for $500. Doesn't
right.
make sense.
The
definitely.
Rashbam asked this question on a Gemara later on.
Yeah.
And if you're black, and he says we don't, even though it's a machlokas, whether or not you say a damim is a raya. By karka you don't, because there's no enough for karkos.
Right. So that it gets into the whole right. So that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing.
What by karkos? I didn't hear.
There's no I know by karka. Right. Remember from Bava Metzia. There's no such thing as ripping somebody off by real estate.
So you can't say, "Oh, what do you mean? I paid you thousands of dollars. I must have gotten much more." No, maybe you paid thousands of dollars for that tiny piece of land.
Yeah. So then, right. That's why lots of Yidden got lots of money in real estate. There's no I know in real estate. So Mamela, you can't say that there's any by real estate. What one man's what does it say? One man's trash, another man's treasure. Yeah,
when
but anyways,
you see one every once in a while the parking lots in Manhattan where somebody's he bought it in 1954 for $10,000 and the guy sells it for $28 million now.
Right, right. And the
smart
yeshiva
gets
guy
$28 million for it, and then another guy takes it and converts it into apartments, and each apartment is $14 million. There's 10 apartments, each one's $14 million. So Baruch Hashem.
Correct. And if you offered it to me back then, and I drove by and say, how many cars do you think you're going to park here? 5, right? Without knowing that there's going to be something called an elevator or different floors. I mean, a big genius, right? Right. So, yeah. Okay. So we'll see that. We'll see that sugya later. But anyways,
when I first learned this sugya about 20 something years ago, I had a chavrusa from LA. He gave me a good mashal. In LA, at least where the Eden live, there's such a thing as a guest house on the same property. So there's 2 houses.
Right.
And they often have this problem with writing up contracts. Are they selling the guest house as part of the house, or is it a separate entity? He said his grandfather, when he sold his house, kept his guest house for him to live, and he sold the rest. But the property line is still the same.
I hear.
The guy owns the whole property except for the guest house.
And he has to give him access?
Yeah. So they somehow share the driveway somehow, but yeah. But that apparently is in every contract, whether the guest house is in it or not. It has to be specified. For this reason. It could do Kari love, it could delay Kari love.
Yeah. Interesting. That's a good anyways. So okay, so if you're gonna say the bika, he didn't know the measurements, right? So he just said, I'm giving you a field, and he just said, one of those fields, and then he gave him the measurement of the whole thing. I'm a bias, but a house, he should know exactly where the house is. He could have told him it's apartment 3F, right? Why didn't he say that? And he didn't. So Kulei Zavan must be he's selling him the whole building. So tzricha, so therefore it needs all these cases. That's why we need the same chiddush by both. Okay, so then the Gemara says, "Kaman Ozla Hod Amar Rav Mori Breda Bashmuel Barshelis Mishmeda Abaya." Hi man, demizavni lemidi lechavre. Anybody who sells something to his friend, sarach lemichtavle, you're required to write. Lo shiyaris bezvini elin kadme klum. I'm not leaving anything over. Who's that shita that says you have to put that into the contract? Right? All right, so who's that like? So we say, come on, Rav Nachman Baravu. It's like Rav Nachman Baravu who said before that that's what we're assuming, that he did not sell him the entire building, or that he did not sell him every field, because he didn't write this in there. Right? Now, why did he require you? Because Right, because it could be the Rashbam says. Hold on, I'm looking at the Rashbam. Yeah, because then a guy could taka sell, meaning if we're saying that a seller has this vague thing where he gives these big boundaries, but I didn't mean to sell you. I only meant to sell you a little piece. Then the guy can mamash abuse it. He could taka have decided to sell the whole thing, and then when he sees this guy making parking garages, I didn't mean to sell you the whole thing. I meant to sell you only a part of it, right? So because of that, they added this clause, right? They added this clause so that you guy cannot tie into this. Right, that's why. So that's what a Rashbam says. He made all contracts have this thing. Yeah. Okay, we'll stop over here.
Tomorrow night is the same time this week. Every night this week, same time.
Tomorrow night, tomorrow night we want to start Kitzur. Do I have a wedding tomorrow? No, Tuesday, I think. Yeah, tomorrow we want to start Kitzur just to figure out the timing. Yeah, l'chayra tomorrow will be 8:15. Maybe depending on the Kitzur, maybe we'll start a little later so we can do Kitzur before. I'll post it out. Yeah.
See,
Okay.
Yaakov, you gave a good
Let's
example with. Oh, yeah, say Tillim. I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll say Tillim. We'll say yeah. Yud Gimel. Yeah. Lamnatzech Mizmor LeDavid. Adona and the night Tishkacheni Netzach. Adona Tasir.